conquer and we're going to take some. Is that understood? Yes, sir. That's what we're going to do, sweetheart. We are going to go and get some. All right, people, on the ready line. Are you me? Yeah! Are you me? Yeah! What are you? What are you?
Read EP Magazine's February issue to learn tips for medical and dental visits with an individual with special needs. Also check out the military section. To read more, sign up for free today at www.epmagazine.com.
Monotony. It comes in all shapes and sizes. Dull, tedious, just plain boring. But what is this? A contender, perhaps? Something unboring by the looks of it. Jabs right at dull, an uppercut to tedium, something that keeps you on your toes, keeps your head on a swivel, a knockout punch to your old, boring workouts. Welcome to Fight Camp.
Oscar Mike Radio is a proud podcast partner of Reach Across America Radio, heard every Thursday at 11 a.m. and Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern. They're also big supporters of the nonprofit I Got Your Six, Two Lives at Once. And with every wreath you sponsor through Oscar Mike Radio, $5 goes back to this great organization dedicated to making a difference in the lives of veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders battling PTSD. Two Lives at Once pairs these brave men and women together with dogs rescued from kill shelters. In this way, two lives are saved at the same time by saving each other. Donate now. Go to reachacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio to help. That's reachacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio.
I remember a time when I was in a not so good place, and these games and these activities and being able to come and have the camaraderie that we have here, it makes me feel like I'm not alone. There are people here that have been through what I've been through. It makes me feel like I don't know, I'm part of something great.
Just let yourself go. Give it a try.
Hello and welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio. My name is Travis, Marine Corps veteran and your host. Oscar Mike Radio is co-produced with Sinister One Productions. What's your podcast doing? And so I'll answer that question. This is, of course, the fourth part of this special collaboration with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Veteran Services. I actually got that right. And I told you it was going to be special. And it really is, because I have on Deputy Secretary Andrea Gayle-Bennett from the Executive Office of Veteran Services. Deputy Secretary, I am honored, I'm pleased, I'm excited to have you as a guest here in Oscar Mike Radio to close out Black History Month. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. It really is an honor to be able to talk to your listeners and just share whatever it is you'd like to hear from me.
Well, everybody serves in the military and everybody gets out, but everybody's story is different. And I don't want to give away all the good stuff, but you have a really cool, interesting story, Deputy Secretary. Can you kind of tell us, I don't know how you can do this in like 3 or 5 minutes, your kind of military story, please, as much as you can, or a little bit.
So I'll start from the beginning, and the beginning is that I don't even come from a family with a military history. My parents were immigrants to this country, and I didn't know anything about the military. The only thing I knew when I was in college, my roommate's boyfriend was a Marine, and he was a presidential guard for President Carter. But that was so long ago, and that was so far from my consciousness that I really never even gave the military any thought. And so at the time that I joined, I was actually just looking for a part-time job. I had recently been married. I graduated from PA school, and a year had passed. I had a baby. A year had passed, and I hadn't worked. And so I just said, "Oh my goodness, I need a part-time job just so I can keep my PA skills up." And lo and behold, a postcard came in the mail back when recruiters sent postcards, and it simply said, "Looking for a part-time job." And I said, "Well, as a matter of fact, I am." And when I went to see the recruiter, it really is it's a crazy story. I asked, "Well, do I have to go to boot camp?" And he said, "Do you want to go to boot camp?" I said, "No, why would I want to do that?" And he said, "Well, we've got a waiver for that." And I said, "Well, exactly what does the National Guard do?" And he said, "Oh, we take care of the state. Anytime there's a blizzard or a hurricane, we call the National Guard." And I said, "Oh, I can do that. I'm a PA, so if there are any wounded, I can help do that." Well, fast forward many, many years, and I deployed to Iraq, served for 35 years, and I think you could say the service pretty much found me.
Well, you have a 35-year career, lots of achievements and accomplishments, but give me like 1 or 2 things that you're most proud of in your military career, Deputy Secretary.
Hmm. So, uh, you know, there are actually a lot of moments, but I'll start with one, and that
Okay.
is when I was promoted to the rank of colonel. That was not something that I even thought about that I would be able to achieve. Working as a PA in the civilian world, now remember, I'm National Guard, working in the civilian world, I knew one guy who was a reservist, and he was a lieutenant colonel. And I thought, wow, that's so great. That's so cool. And then the fact that I made it to colonel, full bird colonel, was incredible. It had a downside though, because that happened in 2012. And at the time, I was the first Black female colonel
Oh,
in
wow.
the history of the Massachusetts National Guard. And I didn't know it at the time uh, until people kept saying, "Congratulations, Ben, you've done it, you've broken the barrier." And I'm thinking, what are they talking about? And then I found out there had not been anyone who'd made that rank that was a Black woman. Um, it's it was sad to me that it took to 2012 for that to happen when the National Guard is 250 years old. Why did it take so long? So it was a personal achievement. It did represent progress, and the possibility of what others can do. But at the same time, it saddened me a little bit that I was the first, because I hadn't set out to be the first in anything. I hadn't set out to do any of that. So that was really a proud moment. And I'll give you one more.
All right.
Because I'm medical, and I did get deployed to Iraq in 2009, which I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm going to war. How am I going to do this? I didn't even go to boot camp. that's, that's all I kept thinking. But I was able to serve with my fellow soldiers. I was in that combat area. And believe it or not, it really reinforced my commitment to service. Just being with all of those people with the same mission, the same goal, taking care of each other, it really, like I said, reinforced my commitment to just leadership and just trying to do what's right for other people. And I'm really proud of the impact I was able to have, because while I was there, I was able to mentor to younger soldiers. I was in my 50s when I deployed. And so everybody else was the age of my children. But being able to mentor these young people and helping shape some of the policies that supported them was great. And I was successful at it. And so, yes, I was proud of that.
So just to backtrack a little bit, you're medical, right?
Yes.
You give shots, Deputy Secretary?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
If I have to.
Okay. I mean, Marine Corps, I hate shot day, and okay. All right. I'll just keep drinking my water and cleaning my socks.
That's
Okay.
right. That's right.
So before we move on, though, you made Colonel, but if I may, you also now are a Brigadier General in the National Guard, yes?
Yes. So
What an honor.
It truly is an honor. I retired full bird colonel in 2018, but Massachusetts has a state militia. It's called the Massachusetts Organized Militia. And it is for those of us who can't really hang up our uniform and who are still willing to be ambassadors for the National Guard and serve in whatever way we can. And one of the benefits of joining the state militia is that you're eligible for promotion one grade higher. And so I joined the state militia and I was promoted to Brigadier General. And that was actually during COVID. So I think it was actually 2021. It was 2021, I think, that I received that promotion. And yeah, again, making history, the first Black woman. It just again, nothing that I've set out to do, but the service found me and found a way to reward me.
Well, speaking of service, you serve the military, and like a lot of officers, a lot of senior staff NCOs, you get out, and a lot of them, and you're not the exception anymore, have a desire to keep serving. So how has your military service, guided, influenced, or changed your perspective about service as Deputy Secretary for the Executive Office, ma'am?
Okay, so I think my service has pretty much been the foundation of everything I do as Deputy Secretary. So, like I said, I was in the National Guard for 35 years. It included a deployment, but what it taught me was the importance of taking care of people. And here at EOVS, that's our mission, honorably serving those who have served us. And so those are the values that guide me every day, that what can I do to take care of the people who have served? That's the biggest thing. And one of the biggest lessons, I think, that the military instilled in me is that no one stands alone. No one succeeds alone, and that we all need each other. While I was in Iraq, or even when I transitioned into civilian life, we need a support system. And so that's why I'm committed to making sure that every veteran in Massachusetts has access to the resources and the benefits and the community that I'm not even going to say that they deserve, but we've earned this. We've earned all of this. And so that is my job. And I think my service gave me firsthand insight into, of course, the unique challenges that women veterans veterans of color face, because that's who I am, and I did face some challenges, and so I know now what it means to break barriers. I know what it means to try to navigate this system that really wasn't built with me in mind, with women in mind, and how to be an advocate, and use my voice to be heard. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's whether I'm in uniform or not, it's really about serving and leading and leaving no one behind.
So speaking of service, my veteran service officer, and he'll probably get mad at me for doing this, but Adam Gunn in Abington, Chief Petty Officer, sent me this thing saying, "Hey, have you seen this EOVS Acts of Service campaign?" I'm like, I think it crossed my wire. Let's look at it. And it's this exciting initiative about, raising awareness about some of the amazing veterans here in Massachusetts. Tell me more, because it was like, this is a really great way to start the year. There's a lot of veterans doing a lot of amazing things. So what's this all about, Deputy?
So basically, we launched in January, on January 20th, on MLK Day, the 2025 Acts of Service campaign. And it really is all about harnessing the power of service that is happening in the veteran community, for the veteran community, and by the veteran community. And it really is, we're trying to build connections between veterans and the public. We recognize that service doesn't stop when the uniform comes off. It just takes a different form. And everyone I have met, whether they served 2 years or whether they served 40 years, they continue to want to serve. And so we've launched this year-long initiative to highlight opportunities to serve and to highlight things that are being done all across the Commonwealth. We have a website where you can share your stories, and we plan at the end of the year during Veterans Week to highlight a lot of these stories and just let the public know what's going on and how they can help. And so, I encourage folks to go to the EOVS website and the social media pages, and you can stay updated on events that are happening and opportunities to serve. So yeah, it's just a way to again just thank veterans, thank people who served for the things that they're done, and the service can literally be anything. It could be volunteering, it could be donating, it could be sharing a message, it could be a book drive, it could be community service, it could be any way that you support a veteran is what we want to hear about.
Well, I will have the link to that initiative in this Oscar Mike Radio show post, Deputy Secretary, so people can learn more. And just to close out this, how can communities and veterans and other allies get involved? Is it just as simple as going to the website, getting the form, filling it out, and telling that story, regardless of what you may or may not think is worthy?
Right. It's basically share the service you've already done. And so, for example, I know that there's a food pantry happening right now in Haverhill, and they need to share that. I know that the Bill Ricca VSO last month had hosted women veterans at a women's hockey game. Post that. If there are food drives or volunteering at a shelter, just share the experience that you've already done. You go to the website, you put your name and your email address and share some pictures and a little bit about the service that you did. And that's helpful. Or you can join one of the opportunities to serve, because we do have some of those posted on the website as well. So that's always available. And when you do that, you strengthen bonds, you meet veterans, meet people that you haven't seen before, meet other people in the community, and you'll get to know them, and then really spread the word and bring other people along. And so encourage local businesses to hire veterans, or a community cleanup, or there are just so many ways that you can just serve other people, and we just love to highlight it and showcase the things that are being done.
That's really interesting as we move through this whole acts of service and continuation of service. I have had a person on my show talking about the 54th Massachusetts Memorial down there by the State House, and it left an impression upon me. General Colin Powell, God rest his soul, is one of my heroes. His quotes and books about leadership has really influenced me. As we work to close out Black History Month and this fourth special episode of Oscar Mike Radio, what message or perspective, Deputy Secretary, can you share with me, with us, about the legacy of Black service members in our military? Because, I don't want us to ever forget what, has been done for this country.
Yeah, I agree completely. Black service members have played I would say a pivotal role in shaping the history of our military and our nation. When you think about the Buffalo Soldiers, and the Tuskegee Airmen, and countless other unsung heroes, they may not have fancy names or names that are easily recognizable, but they served with honor. And these were service members who consistently answered the call to duty, and always in the face of discrimination and systemic barriers. And so their contributions have not only helped us win wars, but they've paved the way for people like me to come along and serve. And I think it's, as you mentioned, it's really important to tell their stories, because they really are a part of the fabric of American history. And we should recognize everyone's sacrifice and achievements. And that's what will help propel future generations to understand really the depth of those contributions. And because I say it all this time, I stand on the shoulders of people, and if they had not done what they did, I wouldn't be able to be where I am today. And so I think we always need to highlight these service members. Black History Month, it's really a time to reflect and honor. And I think what better way to close that out by continuing to tell the stories so that these stories live on.
Well, just one thing, if I may, before we move on to Women's History Month, is one thing that has struck me in reading Colonel Martin's research and reading other research and other history about Black service members is, it all comes back to one person said, you know what, I'm going to make a stand. I'm going to serve at a different level. I want to serve, or I want a place at the table. It's one person who did that, then another person does it, so on and so forth. And I just think that's overlooked at times, and it really reminded me that we all have responsibility to, look at injustice and make a change where we can. And speaking of, other types of service members that you all serve, I know this, but a lot of people don't know that women are the fastest growing veteran segment in our country. And it's causing some, I wouldn't say problems, but definitely challenges, because so many systems have been geared toward, taking care of male service members. How do you tell those stories of women who served? How do you tell the stories of women of color who have served, and make sure they're not forgotten in everything that goes on in terms of military history and advocacy, Deputy Secretary?
So here at EOVS, we have a Women Veterans Network, and that's their focus. And so as we transition from Black History Month to Women's History Month, it is important to continue lifting up these stories of service women, and that is what WVN does. They provide resources, they provide workshops, just because there are challenges that are unique to being a woman, and they step in to try to address those needs. And as you mentioned, it's been a very long time. Contributions of women have been overlooked and underrepresented. And, there was a time when women would join the military disguised as men. There was a time when the first women who joined as nurses, once they were out of the military, they were told, well, your service didn't really count, and so you're not a veteran. And those are the kinds of things that need to be told over and over and over and over again to preserve it. And recently, there was a woman by the name of Nancy Lieutenant Cologne. She was 104 years old, and she was the first Black nurse to serve in the regular U.S. Armed Forces. Yeah, she lived to be 104, and I'm sure she witnessed the transformation of the military from women not being allowed to serve to being allowed to serve, to people of color not being, segregated. But she's an example of why it's so important to preserve these stories and share these stories, because she, I'm sure, was a wealth of information. And so I think, once you highlight these trailblazers, or even the common people, it ensures that their sacrifices, and the fact that they lived through these times and succeeded and thrived, and it just makes sure that they're not forgotten. So I think those stories serve to inspire people and remind us how progress is built, one story at a time, and on the shoulders of those who came before us.
So I'm curious. You served for a long time at a very high level. Have you ever had a woman of color or a woman come up to you and say, you know what, I saw that you served, I saw that, your example, and I either joined the National Guard, I joined the military, or I stayed in to push myself to be the best I can because of what I saw? And has that ever happened, Deputy Secretary?
That has happened. And I'll tell you, when I was promoted to colonel, there were so many women of color who came up to me and said, we can't believe this has happened. And we're so proud that you're here, and thank you so much for all that you're doing. And I really had no idea that I was this role model. I was just doing my medical thing. And there it was. People were watching. And so I say to people all the time now, you may not realize it, but you are a mentor to somebody. And so why not just embrace it and actively mentor someone? Because we all need someone who's been there, done that, who can advise you, who can be a listening ear, could bounce things off of. So just being a mentor is really what we need.
Well, so many times in leadership courses and studying, leaders like General Colin Powell, is this whole aspect where, what you say might go in one ear, not the other, in the vernacular, but your subordinates, your peers will watch everything you do.
Absolutely. And I really, and I used to say that to my children all the time, but for some reason I didn't think it applied in the military. And then it really smacked me right in the face and said, yes, people are watching you. And so, yeah, thank goodness I wasn't doing anything crazy or outlandish, but it's all good.
Well, I mean, you had people's lives in your hands. I mean, it's a pretty important role that I tried to avoid medical deputy secretary at all cost, because every time I stepped in there, oh, you got to get a shot for this or a shot for that. It's a lot of pain and suffering. And you all seem very cheery to give shots.
Yes, we are.
Well, the Navy, like, look at the size of those veins. I'm just telling you, it was like, you all get excited with the weirdest stuff. I'm just saying.
Those large veins just make it easier for us to do our work.
How can listeners and watchers of this special episode, I'm so happy to have you, connect with and support the mission of the Executive Office of Veteran Services Deputy Secretary?
How can they connect with us?
Or support us, or?
I would say the fact that they're listening here, they're now aware. And so now that you're aware, it's to take action. So, go to our social media, go to the website, and see what things are on there. See if there's anything there that you would want to participate in, any program that you feel that you can help with. You can share the information that you see on the website. We've got lots of programs and initiatives. We've got our Save and Serve team for mental health and for the justice involved individuals. We have programs for education and employment training. We have the Women's Veteran Network. We now have a BIPOC network. We have an LGBTQ network. And so whatever you see that strikes your fancy, share that information. And this really helps veterans in your community, just passing on the information and passing on the resources. And I can tell you, I'm on a committee, the Advisory Committee for Women Veterans, and we did a survey last year asking women, what is it that you need? How can we help you? What is it that we can do for you? And they had lots of suggestions and lots of ideas. And one of the things that we realized is a lot of the things that they were requesting are things that already exist, but they just weren't aware of the resources. And so it's a matter of sharing the information when you're out there. Just share the information, just let everybody know and direct them back to our website. And then another way to support our mission is to share your story of service through our 2025 Acts of Service campaign. And like I said, it could be anything: volunteering, mentoring, whatever, just checking in on a friend, shoveling snow, whatever it is, share that service with us.
Lots of good call to action there, but we're going to close this out. But I find, Deputy Secretary, that colonels and brigadier generals who I've talked to before never really take off the rank. Is there some overarching message of action that not only veterans here in the Commonwealth, but nationwide can take as we go into 2025, and veterans are have to sit together to make sure that we are all taken care of?
Yeah, I would say it's really simple. If everyone committed to one act of service this year that directly supports a veteran, that would be huge. And it doesn't even have to be a grand act. It could be a small act of kindness or support. But all of those little things add up in big ways. And again, just share what you're doing, because that creates momentum and spreads the word. And like I said, we want to highlight and we want to celebrate the ways people are serving, people who've served, and it will inspire other peoples, and it'll be like a big giant snowball. And lastly, I would say honor legacy. So, we all know about Woody Woodhouse. We all know about the 54th Regiment. We all know about lots the Buffalo Soldiers, lots of other high profile, but there are other people of color who have served, and their stories are just not as prominent. So do the research. We stand on those shoulders, and they fought and they sacrificed, and they paved the way for the things that I enjoy today. And so I have to do my part. And I was saying this yesterday, I was at another event. Our history is still being written.
Yeah.
And it's up to each of us to make sure that the contributions of Black service members are never overlooked, never erased, and always honored. So that's my challenge. Those are my challenges.
Well, challenge accepted here. Deputy Secretary has been great going through and doing this monthly special that we did, and there will always be a space at Oscar Mike Radio to remember those stories. These service members have had a profound effect on me, and I remember us meeting outside of this forum at Brockton and Abington and other areas, and I've always appreciated your warm smile and your perspective. So. Look, ladies and gentlemen, every day for a lot of us is Veterans Day. You can serve every day. You can make sure that these stories of our Black American soldiers, other soldiers, our women of color are not forgotten. And you have your marching orders from the Brigadier General. So as we say on Oscar Mike Radio, thank you very much. We're mission in flight.
Thank you so much for having me.
The biggest fear Gold Star families have that their child will be forgotten.
We need to never forget freedom wasn't free.
It's the fact that they give us the life we have now. We should remember them and give thanks to them.
If I can be a part of something today that's going to make the surviving family of any of these veterans, these heroes, feel better tomorrow, then it's worth it.
That one wreath symbolizes one family that was able to smile because of the generous donations.
To sponsor a wreath and honor a veteran, visit wreathsacrossamerica.org.
Thank you for listening and watching Oscar Mike Radio, where our active duty service members and veterans are in action and the mission is in flight. Oscar Mike Radio is an oversized load co-Sinister One production. If you are a veteran or know a veteran who needs help, please dial 988 and press 1 for the Veterans Crisis Line.